What's happening out there, gang? Welcome to the MLB DFS Lineup Card Show. Rotoscouts is the site. My name's Terry McBride. I think everybody watching this show probably knows that already. Getting into the 8-gamer for MLB DFS, DraftKings, and FanDuel. Full game-by-game breakdown today. I've got everything loaded up. Let's see who we've got in here. We've got a handful of people in here already hanging out watching us, so spread the word, guys. Let people know that we're doing this these days. Somebody in the chat just let me know, make sure that we're actually live and on screen here. Just want to always like to confirm that. I'm going to reload YouTube, just make sure. Yeah, there I am. I'm hearing myself now because I didn't mute it. All right, cool. So we'll get this thing started. I now trust myself a little bit. So let me fire up the old StreamYard here. We'll jump into the same view we had yesterday. I got to share my screen here. Bear with me one sec. I was updating the confirmed lineups before I jumped on, and I forgot to set up the screen share here. So let's see. Can you guys see that? I'll give you a little bit more up at the top there, like this. That looks fairly good, I think. Doable. All right, cool. So good news is we've got pretty much all the confirmed lineups. I think we're missing just one lineup, so we'll keep an eye out for that one. I think we got a great slate here. It's a really interesting bag of power. There's a lot of power potential in a couple of these spots, couple clunker type starters going for for some of these teams. We've got a few ace caliber pitchers, some of whom are kind of struggling. My guy Garrett Cole, we'll talk about him in a second, but a little bit concerned about that. But I do think we've got a really nice slate. I think it's going to be one that's probably going to be one at the plate with a couple big outbursts for power. If you guys saw on the site, if you go over to rotoscouts.com, I put up the home run model, the power index rather, the home run picks as usual, and then I did a short version of my game-by-game summary, game-by-game overview, kind of what we're going to talk through here. I tried to knock it out as quickly as possible for the people who do like to still read things, and that is kind of going to be the plan going forward, right? I'm going to try and have some version of a written game-by-game, and then try and do these shows every day to give everybody, both formats, make it as consumable as possible for everybody. But so I went through some of this over there, but we'll dive in right now. The first game on deck, Rangers against the Orioles. I think this is a good-looking spot on both sides. You get Kyle Bradish for the home team going up against Cody Bradford. Obviously, Bradford kind of a non-entity. He's called up from AAA. He's made one start, went 5 innings, struck out, I think, 2 or 3, gave up a couple pair of home runs the other day, earlier in mid-May. Not getting a major projection out of him. I forgot to black those out. Don't worry about it. You got free pitching projections today. Not getting a major projection for him. 4,000, like if you wanted to take a couple cheap hitter price dart throws on DK. I guess maybe 5 clean innings isn't the craziest idea in the world, but I don't think you get much strikeout upside out of this guy. He's a AAA pitcher, right? So I don't think we get much there. Kyle Bradish, I do think he's better than his results have been. 19.8% strikeout rate for the year, a 4.57 xFIP. Has given up some premium contact, as we can see down here. 47% hard hits, 91 mile an hour average exit velo. It hasn't been great for Bradish, but I think he's better than that overall. We've seen him be good in a few starts. We've seen him, I think he had just like one clunker start where he gave up 7 earned, he gave up 4 in a couple other starts, but he's been okay. If you wanted to throw a couple $6,400 darts, I don't know that I would do it against this Rangers squad. That's the major trouble here. You can see the top 4 guys in the lineup all project very well. Green dots for all those guys. So we're looking at pretty major projections. You've got significant barrel rates, significant hard hit rates for all 4 of those guys up at the top of the lineup, plus Josh Young, plus Jonah Heim in here. There's just a lot of power in this lineup. They're the league leaders for run creation per game as of the last time I checked. So you're just getting a lot of potential upside from the Rangers. And it's not the kind of team that I want to throw a low-end strikeout pitcher into. 19.8% for the year this year. I think he was 21-ish last year. So league averages type strikeout guy, it's just probably not enough. He's probably in more danger than he has upside in this one. So I think I'd probably avoid Bradish. But that would lead me into bats on both sides of this one. I think this is a good spot to roster bats. I just mentioned the entire top 6 for Texas looks pretty good. If you wanted to grab all 4 of the top 4 hitters, plus either Young or Jonah Heim on DK, go for it. I think that's a great stack. You've got viable offset pieces down the bottom for mixing and matching with Jankowski, Robbie Grossman. and Leody Taveras. Taveras has been kind of surprising. 316, 378, 444 for the season, over 149 plate appearances now. 131 WRC plus. He doesn't hit for much / any power. 128 ISO, 2 homers, but he's got a little bit of speed if he gets on, and he's still really cheap. So if you're looking for like a wraparound play, any one of those three guys really can function as a wraparound or as a final piece to a mid lineup stack. But your premium bats are your 1 through 6. There you get tons of power. Jonah Heim, really nice, cheap catcher on DK. Doesn't typically get enough attention overall. I think he's a viable guy that you could use as if he was a first baseman on FanDuel at 3,400. There's enough power in that bat that you can get away with it. Young has been stellar this season, but the aggressive strikeouts are what you got to watch with him. Last season, 38.2%. Just totally untenable. This year, cut it to an aggressively high 29.6%, but that's a viable percentage for a guy who's drilling the ball like he is. The other side of this one, I think you get fairly equivalent stack in terms of, I've been told there's no season for Taveras. What's up, EMAC? Eric McPherson in the chat. Love to see it. Our old pal joining us. Yes, there is no off season for certain players in this league, regardless of their qualities. There might not be an off season for some of these guys because of their attachments to our fantasy squads. Cedric Mullins, Adley Rutschman, Austin Hayes, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle. Just excellent bats off the top for the Baltimore Orioles here. Only Mountcastle, oddly, despite his 11 home runs to lead the team, is below average for WRC plus this season. Nice, 2% below average, but he's got a 222 ISO. He just absolutely smokes the ball when he makes contact. I talked about it early in the year, and it's held true for the most part this season as well. He had 5 premium contact stats that was like him, Aaron Judge, Jordan Alvarez, like the top handful of power hitters in the league last year, and his just didn't translate because of some of those park changes in Baltimore, because of some bad luck. His didn't translate to as many home runs as some of those guys, obviously, last year, but the contact, the approach at the plate was all right there. So I really like Mountcastle. I think that WRC plus gets above average. Everybody above him, well above average, ranging from 124 to a 138 WRC plus. So any one of or all of those 5 hitters. Plus you get Ramon Urias, Gunnar Henderson, and Jorge Mateo at the back end of this lineup. I did skip over James McCann there. James McCann against the lefty was a thing a while ago. I don't know that he's that guy anymore. He's got 2 homers this year. They've been using him in that platoon role, but there's not much left on the bone there for McCann. But I think Urias is underrated and cheap, always under-owned. Gunnar has been walking aggressively, scoring runs, getting involved that way. When he starts to swing more and get more aggressive at the plate rather than trying to walk every plate appearance, I think he's going to strike out actually a little less, and that'll turn into some more hits, maybe some power. So we like to see that from Henderson going forward. Mateo was a superstar in April and March and April, and has completely died on the vine in May. He's just been atrocious. I think I saw it yesterday. It was like 110, 105, something like that in the first 2 stats in his triple slash. Not good. He's a guy who definitely needs to get on base. If he does get on base, he's probably running 15 stolen bases on the year, 6 home runs, but those are the numbers he had quite a few weeks ago. Look at everybody in the chat. We've got EMAC in there. We've got Steve Leibowitz. We've got Larry C. Everybody hanging out. Love to see it. Spread the word, guys. Tell your friends. Tell everybody that we're all hanging out here going through this. And make sure you tune in and catch EMAC. He's going to be coming up after me at 12:30 over on the unaffiliated Stochastic Live Before Lock show with somebody who I've never heard of. No hard feelings there. Let's move on. Pods at my Yankees. This was a good game yesterday. I was up at the stadium yesterday. Fun day at the ballpark. Got to yell at a bunch of idiots up in the upper deck who were trying to do the wave when the game was tied in the 9th inning. For one, we're Yankees fans, right? We don't do the wave. It's the Bronx. It's not California. I think we've talked about this on shows in the past, but like that's just a thing for me. Like, we're supposed to be Yankees fans here. We're not. Come on. Yeah. Anyway, so when you're at a game, if it's tied in the 9th inning, tied at 2, and it's an important part of the inning, don't focus on doing the wave or booing people who aren't doing the wave instead of paying attention to the game. Anyway, let's move on. We've got a great pitching matchup in this one. We've got Garrett Cole. We've got Yu Darvish. Garrett Cole's been hard to trust this year. 25.3% strikeout rate, an 11% swinging strike rate, and a 27.6% CSW. Those are good numbers for your average pitcher. Those are not $11,000 pitcher numbers, though. You see on the other side of this one, you get Yu Darvish, 9,700, 10-4. He's got a 26% strikeout rate, 11.4% swinging strike rate, 29.8% CSW. By all strikeout measures, he's been a little bit better than Cole for strikeouts this year. Obviously, that's not the case going back over time, right? Cole had a 32% strikeout rate last year, 33% the year before, but he's getting a lot less swing and miss. I featured this on the site, his start before last. Lot lower whiff rate on his slider, on his curveball, so his breaking stuff hasn't been effective. He's lost about a mile an hour off the fastball. I think that might have a little bit to do with it. So just struggling a little bit. The ERA is fine, 2.53, but I think the 3.81 xFIP for Garrett Cole is a little bit more telling. So the Padres lineup really, really top heavy, but you've got to get through Tatis, Cronenworth, Soto, and Bogarts, and then you get Matt Carpenter, who I don't think much of. I think he was, what we saw last year was ridiculous and out of nowhere after he'd been mostly dead for several seasons. But it did happen in this ballpark, right? It did happen in Yankee Stadium. He does have that short porch to work with. So I do think there's a little bit of upside at cheap prices for Matt Carpenter. Odor, Ha-Seong Kim, Trent Grisham, Austin Nola, fine. There's not much threat there against Garrett Cole. You've got a lot of guys at or about the Mendoza line. Not a ton of power, not a ton of run creation there. But that top end, it's a little bit concerning. If I'm spending that much on a pitcher, I want him to be performing a little bit better than Garrett Cole has been. So I've got some question marks. I'll still own him, but I haven't seen what the field's ownership is going to look like. I assume the field will probably still be there on him. So I would probably be looking to undercut Garrett Cole just at price. I do still think there's a very strong possibility he goes out and puts up the slate leading score for the day, but it's not a great matchup. He's super expensive and he's been off. He's just not been performing like himself. The dog is like right over here, by the way, just so he's just driving me bananas, trying to get me petting him or whatever. I think he thinks I'm talking to him through this. Yeah, Joker, I'm talking about you now. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing with my left arm over here. I'm not like diddling myself while I'm doing shows here. Anyway, let's see. Yu Darvish on the other side, who I was just talking about. Darvish does, I think, have some upside against the Yanks here, right? The Yanks have a similarly top-heavy lineup. It runs a little bit deeper, I think, than maybe the Padres lineup does, but not that much deeper. There's a lot of holes in this lineup. So you do have the Torres, Judge, Rizzo, maybe DJ LeMahieu top end to contend with. As far as Den, sorry, you got to go over to the stochastic stream to see that kind of a thing. So as I was saying, you get enough swing and miss here on the I think there might be a market for that. You might be right. So you get enough swing and miss in the Yankees lineup. It's 22.3% strikeout rate for the year, current year stats against Darvish here. He's talented enough to find a few bonus strikeouts, pitch through this lineup clean. So I like the Darvish side a little bit better at 9,700, 10-4 going up against my Yankees here. It's not a great spot. You could obviously run into power. You can run into Aaron Judge. You can run into Anthony Rizzo. He's got the ballpark to contend with. He's got the warm day in New York to contend with. So it's not a great spot, but if I'm gun to my head picking pitchers, I might just take the discount on Darvish here. Otherwise, I see them fairly equally, right? Larry's asking, barrels is barrel percentage, launch angle is launch angle, EV. What's BBB? B plus BB minus K on the pitcher sheet. That was a stat I made up last year as kind of trying to track an indicator of it's barrels plus walks minus strikeout rate, right? So it was trying to get to a number that would be an indicator for the lower the number, the worse the pitcher, right? So you can see with Darvish and Cole here, 11.1, 8.2. That's a pretty solid rate, meaning these guys aren't allowing too much opportunity. They strike out a lot of guys, and they don't allow a ton of barrels. We'll see some other guys later on, or like I can go back probably. We can see if in the last game here, let's see. Yeah, like 2.2 for Kyle Bradish in that stat, right? Because he's walking 8%, he's giving up 9.6% barrels and only striking out 19.8. So it's a stat that I made up trying to capture that like narrow lane of there's contact available, there's premium contact available, and it's a guy who may or may not walk guys. So he'll be putting guys on base to put out extra base hit, potential extra base hits, potential RBI base hits. So trying to capture that, but yeah, not something that was commonly out there. And no, Larry, you're certainly not stupid. Even if it was a common stat and one that you didn't know, there are so many acronyms, so much ridiculous stuff out there, so much made up stuff out there that even if you don't know one, it's certainly not stupid. I forget them all the time myself. Let's see here. Yankees lineup. So we talked a little bit about the top end, right? Torres, Judge, Rizzo. If you wanted to include DJ LeMahieu at cheap prices, perfectly fine. $2,800 on both sites. That's cheap for DJ LeMahieu, who he is. I talked about it yesterday, though. He's doubled his strikeout rate and not hit for as much power as you would want for a guy who doubled his strikeout rate. Then he went out yesterday, hit his 6th home run of the year, which was very nice to see. Helped get the Yankees back in that game. But, it's a little bit concerning for DJ. But 48.8% hard hit rate, hitting cleanup in this lineup behind those hitters, I think he's perfectly viable at cheap prices in the infield. Love the 3-position eligibility on the FanDuel slate for him as well. Harrison Bader, nice little catalyst for this offense, gets involved, has mid-range power and some speed. He's not the elite player that some Yankees fans are making him out to be, but when you get his production and elite defense in center field, I'll absolutely take it. I hope they bring him back on a contract extension. For DFS purposes, the price is right, $3,800, $3,300. He's a viable player, but he's not a superstar by any means. Willie Calhoun, IKF, total dead spots in the lineup in my mind. Willie might pop for some power here and there. He's got 3 on the year, but only a 138 ISO. Just kind of a never-was guy who was premium prospect on the way up and just never connected at this level. IKF, slap hitter who can barely even do that. Higgy, I talk about all the time. Love Higgy's contact profile, his barrel rate. He is my preferred catcher in Yankees stacks. That said, 173, 235, 333 is not good in terms of the triple slash. We're just looking for premium contact and power from Higgy. He can deliver that. Not a great spot against Darvish. Anthony Volpe, also, a little bit of counting stats upside, 7 homers, 13 stolen bases on the year, but he's been flat. 197, 280, 356, 77 WRC plus. Need a little bit more from the kid at shortstop, but playing good enough defense, getting by on the counting stats for us. We went through the Padres side, so yeah, if you're stacking Padres, it's that top 4, maybe some Matt Carpenter. If you wanted to throw lefty Rougned Odor upside in there, go for it. Not much for me there. Let's see, the Cards. Next game on deck. Cards going up against Hunter Gaddis here. This was a spot that I actually had to go into the home run model and update Hunter Gaddis's home run totals because he gave up. He had a start last year where he gave up 5 home runs in a single game in a 4-inning start, I think, and then 2 in another start. So he'd given up 7 home runs in just 2 starts last year, and then he's actually been good this year. He's only given up 1 home run in 5 starts, 6 appearances. I think he made a bullpen appearance the other day. Overall, though, not good. 25 2/3 innings. 15.5% strikeout rate, a 5.80 xFIP, a 5.26 ERA. There's plenty of contact available against a ridiculously hard-hitting Cardinals team. So after I corrected with this season's stats to include those 5 starts with no home runs allowed, this is where we landed. We were in like the 30s and 40s when I opened up the home run model today, which was, I wasn't going to publish those numbers, so we had to run the update. But I love the spot for the Cards here. I will not roster any Hunter Gaddis, even at price. I don't think there's anything there. But yeah, if you're going to Cards, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, 2 premium lefty bats up at the top of the lineup. Really like getting Lars Nootbaar in the leadoff spot there. He's got power upside, 123 WRC plus, 388 batting average, or 388 on base percentage over his 178 plate appearances. He's got upside and he's a good correlated scoring piece to put together with Goldschmidt, Gorman, and Arenado there. So another team where just 1 through 4 is easily playable on its own. Then you get Brendan Donovan, Paul DeJong, Alec Burleson, Tommy Edman, even Andrew Knizer, honestly. In 78 plate appearances, 3 home runs. There hasn't been a ton here, but 3 home runs, a 189 ISO, and an 11.1% barrel rate with 40.7% hard hits. That's nothing to sneeze at for a $2,700 catcher where the position's required, at least. I might not use him on FanDuel, but I think where you need catchers, that's viable. Otherwise, 1 through 8, I can play this lineup. Burleson hasn't been great this year. 3 home runs, a 140 ISO, 83 WRC+. DeJong's been on fire since coming back. 109 plate appearances, 8 home runs, a 289 ISO. He's not going to be that good the rest of the season, but I mean, capable bat, lefty bat for Brendan Donovan with multi-position, cheap in that lineup. Gorman was my overall home run pick for the day. I think I went, what did I do? I think I went with Arenado as the Cards home run pick, and then I used Gorman as the overall, so we get a 2 for here from the Cards. Really like the upside for the Cardinals today. Guardians. I think there's upside for Jordan Montgomery, 7,300 especially. That's a cheap price for this pitcher on DK. He's not an elite starter, right? He's one of these guys who's a better real-life starter than MLB DFS starter most of the time. But he's got a 21.1% strikeout rate. He's not one of these 17%, 16% types. 4.55 ERA is higher than we'd like, but a 4.03 xFIP is fine, perfectly serviceable. Hasn't given up a ton of exit velocity, ton of home runs this year, 2.85% home run rate, 88.7 miles an hour of average exit velo. I think we can get away with Monty here. The issue is going against the Guardians in terms of strikeouts. Steven Leibowitz just nailed it in chat. This is the league leading team. They have the lowest strikeout rate in the league for the lineup, for the active roster. There's an easier way to say that. This team no strike out much. Stephen Kwan, excellent at avoiding strikeouts at 10.5%. Jose Ramirez, excellent at avoiding strikeouts at 8.6%. A couple guys in the teens, a couple low 20s. You get an aggressive number on Mike Zunino at 43.6% that drags their average down to 22.5 overall. But if you take out Zunino, let's say we take out Zunino and we'll take out Ahmed Rosario there, who's at 25%. We'll leave in the 36% from Gabriel Arias. Actually, no, let's leave in the 25 because that makes more sense. Why is this not letting me do this? All right, well, I wanted to do a average there, but it's not letting me hold down the control button for some reason. This keyboard, I got one of those wireless keyboards the other day, and it disconnects from time to time and is really annoying, especially when I'm trying to type that article. Anyway, the Guardians are good at not striking out and bad at everything else this year. Jose Ramirez leads the team with 6 home runs right now. He's been awful for what we expect from that player. He's got a 111 WRC plus, so 11% better than average, but he's a much better than average player overall. 38.7% hard hits from him. That is just really disappointing out of him. Ahmed Rosario's been pretty bad, but a 49.6% hard hit rate. Maybe there's something to say there's some upside coming in the future, but 72 WRC plus, a 103 ISO out of him. Stephen Kwan hasn't been the correlated scoring piece that he was last year, only a 91 WRC plus, hasn't gotten on base at the same clip, hasn't hit for the same average, a 1.1% barrel rate, 3.7% hard hits. He's a slap hitting type guy, but he needs to get on base to be involved here, so hasn't been great for Cleveland up and down. Josh Bell, Gabriel Arias, Tyler Freeman, this is just not a good lineup. So the strikeout is concerning, but I think you could get 6-7 clean innings out of Monty, get a win here out of him, maybe get a quality start bonus on FanDuel out of him. So I think he's in play. He's not my top ranked pitcher, as you can see. It's only 23 and change FanDuel projection. That's not going to include the potential bonuses. So maybe we get him in that mid 30s range on a slate that's got a couple of aces, but maybe a lack of a ton of quality. I think that plays. So I'd probably be going to Monty more to Gumby is his actual nickname. I don't know why. But I'd probably be going to him more than the Guardians bats. If you're going to Guardians, it's probably like Juan Rosario, Jose Ramirez, Josh Bell, and maybe a Mike Zunino for a little bit of power upside from a guy who hasn't really done it this year. That's about it on that one. But strong preference for the Cards bats. A little bit of Jordan Montgomery mixed in. If you leave Cleveland entirely on the table, I think that's fine. Good pitching matchup here in Detroit. Mike Butler, what's up, buddy? Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that, bud. Check out on the site, I put up the article, so we've got a written content version of this breakdown. We've got all the home run picks and everything, so yeah, appreciate that. Working hard for everybody on the weekends, trying to do the same thing day by day, and we'll see if I can manage to do it every single day of the entire season. That'll be fun as one person handling all of this stuff. Oh, Gunn hit me up, by the way, guys, on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw that. Gunn sent me a tweet about talking about potentially collaborating, so I feel like he and I will get together and maybe knock out some shows together and join unite the clans, as they say in Braveheart. So that should be fun. So anyway, a fun matchup here, good pitching matchup in Detroit. We've got Eduardo Rodriguez going for the home team. He's been really good this year. I know he had one kind of not clunker start, but not as good as not the elite starts he had been putting up. That's entirely my fault. I put him in my Dynasty League lineup in Tino for the first time all season, so of course he wasn't going to have his best start, but 8,800, 9,600, I think that's pretty damn good pricing for a guy who's got a 25.5% strikeout rate this year, a .96 whip, hasn't given up any power, 31.7% hard hits, 5.5% barrels, 2.09% home run rate. There's a lot of upside here for Eduardo Rodriguez going up against this White Sox lineup that did not get Eloy Jimenez. Oh no, yeah, there he is. He's hitting second. Sorry, I was expecting him to be hitting fourth there. So they do get Eloy Jimenez back. So that's a little bit of a bump in quality for the White Sox, but I had it projected that way. As you can see, I've got Eduardo with a nice pitching projection, but Cease on the other side, similar pricing, 85, 95 on from site to site. He's chasing him. He's right on his heels in terms of the projection. So I think you can go to both sides in this one in terms of the pitchers. Obviously, Cease is going up against a dead flat type of a lineup with the Tigers here. If you're going to Detroit bats, it's McKinstry, it's Green, it's Maton, it's Baddoo, and then maybe you mix in some shares of the two righties, Baez and Torkelson. Eric Haas, maybe, if you want to catcher, Matt Vierling, maybe. Like, there's mix and match quality at the bottom of the lineup, but this is a bad team. You can see it in the WRC plus marks. You can see it in the total lack of home run upside. 5 is the team leader so far. Riley Green has that. Nick Maton has that. Maton, 5 homers, a 159 ISO, though, a 68 WRC plus, slashing 159, 277, 318. That was from one of the guys that I said was one of the better plays in this matchup because he hits for a little bit of power from the left side. But it's not great. I expect Cease to go out there and maybe find his upside in terms of finding some of his former strikeout quality. He's seen a big dip, down to 23% strikeouts, 11.2% swinging strikes, 26.4% CSW. That's a big dip from a guy who was, we'll give a quick scroll over here. Last 2 seasons, Dylan Cease, 30.4% strikeout rate last year with a 15% swinging. The year before, 31.9 with a 14.8% swinging. So we see that's a big dip there for Cease. But if he's going to figure it out, I like this to be a very good candidate for the game in which he figures it out. So I'll roster some Dylan Cease at that price. If I'm rostering bats, I just mentioned a few of the Tigers, maybe a couple minor shares of Tigers, but it's not a great spot in my mind. No Green bubble in that entire lineup. Obviously, nobody above 5.33 in my home run model. Just doesn't really look great. Hasn't Cease had pretty large home road splits also. I don't look a ton at home road splits, Steve. It's primarily something that, like, I'll just pay attention to which park they're pitching in that day as opposed to the overall home run numbers. But if you're saying it, I'm certain that you're right about that. But it's just not a big factor for me. Taking a look on the White Sox side, that's probably, if I'm picking a lineup here, that's the preferred lineup that I'd go to. But I think both of these teams are kind of low-end options in terms of stacking. If I'm going to White Sox, it's Timmy Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, and Luis Robert off the top here. John Moncada, that's who's out of the lineup that I couldn't put my finger on a minute ago. So you get no Moncada, you do get Andrew Vaughn, you do get Jake Berger, who have been serviceable to. Berger had a pretty hot month. He's got 10 home runs on the season, a 339 ISO, but we know he's not that player. Andrew Vaughn, 6 home runs, a 172 ISO. I think he's a little bit better than that, so they'll probably even out in the mix. They've got Yasmani Grandal hitting between them. Grandal's good at getting on base and providing some correlated scoring. Clint Frazier, maybe cheap in the outfield, former high-end prospect bat there. That's about it from this White Sox lineup. Alberto Romy Gonzalez, you can kind of leave on the side, use his mix and match pieces and parts, but it's not great in my opinion for hitting. I kind of want to extract more pitching from this game. So cue the 11-10 ball game now. This one, I think we can go to some bats in. I like getting into some Blue Jays here. We're showing some good... I mean, he is in Sonny Gray at Yankee Stadium. Yeah, exactly. Nightmares about Sonny Gray at Yankee Stadium. Erod definitely in play for me, Steve. Yeah, I think that's a good call there. I expect a nice game out of Erod here. So yeah, going to the Blue Jays against Bailey Ober, I think is totally viable here. Ober's a talented guy, but he's not a premium pitcher. 21.9% strikeout rate in his 6 starts, 35 1/3 this year. 2.55 ERA. I think the 4.78 xFIP is a little bit more telling. He's given up a 10.3% barrel rate in the small sample, 89 miles an hour of average exit velo. It hasn't really hurt him, but he's a fly ball pitcher who's giving up a little bit of premium contact. So like we see an increase in barrel rate based on the increased launch angle there at 23.2 degrees, and he's only allowed 32% hard hits, but the 89 miles an hour of average exit velo is a little bit telling there. So I think we can see some home run upside, and that's showing through in the model. You get the top 3 hitters, George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, all over the magic number in the home run model there. We've got Springer kind of turning his season around finally, 7 home runs, 8 stolen bases on the year, up to 254, 321, 388, and 100 on the WRC plus mark. Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, obviously stars. Vladdy's been a little bit down. I mentioned it yesterday, a 183 ISO, 8 home runs in 222 plate appearances, but the barrels, the contact are there, 13.3% barrels, 55.2% hard hits. Those are both up from last season. He'll be fine. So roster Vladdy Guerrero, take a bit of a discount at 53.38. Brandon Belt, super cheap, left side of the plate, premium home run hitter in years past. I really like Brandon Belt here, cleaning up for 2,400, 2,500 against this pitcher. That is a significant upside spot. He'll probably be pretty popular. I expect the Blue Jays will be popular today, but Belt should definitely be a part of a lot of Blue Jay stacks. Like if you're making 20 of them, I think Belt should probably be in 15, 12, 15, something like that. Matty Chapman definitely has cooled off a lot in May, but we've seen his price dip as well, 4,600, 3,600 now. Still 283, 359, 45, 202 ISO, 134 WRC plus. Still stuck at 7 home runs, but the contact is still there, 22.1% barrels, 60% hard hit. Those were a lot higher a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, he's cooled off, but we didn't expect him to maintain, the absurd levels of production that he had in April. So I think Matt Chapman's still a premium bat at third base, and now he's a little bit cheap. So I like that. Merrifield, Varsho, Alejandro Kirk. That's a 3-man mix and match core that you can use at different positions that can give you a little bit of pop. Even Merrifield has a little bit of power. He's got very good speed. He gets on base at a decent clip. 292, 342, 387 this year with 14 stolen bases. So that's a nice buy at 4,000, 3,000. A little bit of pop out of Varsho and Kirk. Then you get kind of a flat spot in Kevin Biggio, but 2,100, you can maybe wrap him around. He does have 4 home runs this year, 1 stolen base and 78 plate appearances. So maybe not totally dead in the water, but not great with Kevin Biggio. Let me take a sip of coffee. We're brought to you today by the movie Jaws. Since it's Memorial Day, had to break out the old Jaws mug here. If you haven't seen Jaws, after you enter your lineups today, go watch the movie Jaws. It's probably on somewhere, probably like AMC, I bet. It's like a Memorial Day tradition. Holy hell, this is a lot of talking. Oh, meanwhile, that's what I meant to do before. This show is brought to you by rotoscouts. I am the founder and chief executive. Joker, shut up, dude. I am the founder and chief executive of rotoscouts.com. I'm not actually reading this off my phone. I'm just kind of vamping here while I'm entering my placeholder lineups, which I forgot to do before. So the point is, a lot of free content up at the site. If we have anybody wandering in new, welcome. Go check out the site, rotoscouts.com. We've got a overview up on the site for this slate. We've got our home run picks that we do team by team home run picks, one guy from every team, and then an overall home run pick for the day. And then we also put up the power index, which shows the averages for the top 6. The Steve Leibowitz, being on Cape Cod Jaws is serious business. Yeah, man, don't go in the water up there, man. You got all those seals that have been camped out off of Cape Cod the last few years. Tons of great white activity. I'm a big Shark Week fan. I've been watching that, but yeah, little dicey out in the water off of Cape Cod these days. But as I was saying, we've got the power index up on the site as well, and I wanted to take a second to explain the power index. Den says no Jaws, but Shawshank Redemption's on later. If you haven't seen the Shawshank Redemption, not quite a Memorial Day movie, but except for maybe that scene up on the roof with the beers. That's summerish anyway, Memorial Day-ish. But yeah, not a Memorial Day movie, but an excellent movie. So maybe watch that one later on today too. I am almost done with putting the placeholders in. But I wanted to take a sec to explain the power index for people who might not be familiar, or for guys who might have forgotten. If you go to the site, you can check it out. It shows the averages of these home run marks for the top 6 and for the full lineup. That's these numbers down here, right? So what I'm doing is putting those numbers side by side, ranking all the different teams, and then sorting it for the home run opportunity. That is not always indicative of the best spots to use as a stack, however. Sometimes you see like inflated home run marks against a pitcher like Garrett Cole, who you're not expecting him to give up 7-8 runs, get totally lit up, but he might give up that oddball Garrett Cole home run. So it's important to remember when you're looking at my power index there what exactly that's telling you. A lot of times that is like, hey, this is a great spot for power. It's also a great spot that's going to carry us to a huge score for MLB DFS purposes and to for the team to win the game and all. But it's not always a straight line guideline for stacking, and it doesn't include things like price and ownership. So just wanted to explain that real quick while I was needing to kill a minute there and put my lineups in. Let's see. Twin side of this one. Going up against Jose Barrios, former Twin. Middling projection for Barrios, 29.95 is, that puts him in play on the board for me, I think, on FanDuel at 97. I like him much better at the DraftKings price. 7,600, that's an opportunity price for this pitcher going up against this Twins lineup. There's a ton of strikeout in this Twins lineup, 27.4% current year strikeout rate for the confirmed lineup. So plenty of strikeout upside here for Jose Barrios. He's going to have to fade some aggressive home run hitters. You've got Joey Gallo in the leadoff spot, which you guys know I love. He's only 4,000, 3,000. season. He might strike out 4 times. He might hit 2 home runs. That's what you get with Joey Gallo. You can see the nice team-leading home run mark in the home run model there at 15.96. Really like that spot. Think he's too cheap. Edouard Julien, premium prospect for this team. He's still cheap, 2,700, 2,500, hitting second here. I like that spot for this kid. Lefty bat also going up against Barrios. You can see 10% barrel rate, 43.3% hard hits in 54 plate appearances. Hit another home run, and I think it was last night or yesterday afternoon. So 4 on the season after 3 early ones before he was sent back down. Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, obvious stars. Correa has been struggling, but I believe in the turnaround, like I was saying yesterday. He's dealing with some foot issues, but not in the foot that everybody was concerned about in the offseason, which is a little bit weird. But I think that Correa will be fine in the long term, and you can still see 11.7% barrels, 43.8% hard hit. That's right in line with what he did last year, which is right next to it, 11.4, 44.7. So I think Correa is going to be fine in the long term. I think he's cheap. You take the discount, you thank the sites for giving it to you. Byron Buxton, superstar caliber player when he's going right. 10 home runs, 236 ISO, 121 WRC plus. Price is fine on both sites. You can go there. Kirilloff would probably be the last guy that I'm interested in this lineup. Lefty guy with some power upside, 9.51 in the home run model, 3 on the season, a 200 ISO in 69 plate appearances. It's not great with Kirilloff, but the price isn't high. 3,300, 2,900. First base only on FanDuel. Like him a little bit better with outfield eligibility. You can just flex him around the board on the DK slate. But you do have first base outfield on Joey Gallo on FanDuel, so you can do the same thing with Gallo and then just put Kirilloff at first base if you're concerned about the double first baseman. Willie Castro, Matt Wallner, Kyle Farmer, Christian Vasquez. You take what you get if you mix and match those guys in. Certainly use them at cheap prices and low ownership if you're building a bunch of twin stacks, but it's not the greatest spot in the world. Vasquez could hit you the oddball double that scores a few runs, but he hasn't been good for home run upside this season. Farmer, mid-range power, a little bit of speed from time to time. Willie Castro, 4 home runs, 8 stolen bases on the season. Maybe I shouldn't poo-poo Willie Castro quite so much. Decent speed, a little bit of home run upside, a 117 WRC plus and 103 plate appearances. The reason I say maybe not discount him that much, 2,300 is a good price for a guy with multi-position eligibility and those counting stats. So maybe a little bit more enthusiasm for Willie Castro in the 6th spot there. It's not great though. This one. I hate this spot. I hate this game. I hate this spot. I don't want this one on the slate. I wish I could just skip it, but I can't because it's looking super relevant. Ignore that pitching projection from Daniel Lynch. I don't expect him to go deep enough to fulfill that pitching projection that you can see there. He's an okay starter, league average-ish kind of a lefty. He's made, I think, 5 rehab appearances, but this is his first start back in the show. Maybe he gets 5 innings, maybe he gets 6, but between the potential lack of quality and the potential innings cap, I don't love it. 6,200, 7,000. If you've got a different read on the innings potential for him, then by all means, don't let me talk you out of it. But I don't think it's a great spot for Lynch. Mackenzie Gore on the other side, 7,500 is too cheap. I think this is a really good spot for Gore. There's plenty of strikeouts in the Royals lineup, 24% for the confirmed lineup here. Vinny Pasquantino, the only guy who's truly difficult to strike out in that lineup. He's hitting 3rd today, so I like Vinny. I like the top end if you're going to Royals, but I think Gore is the better play, especially at that DK price. That is cheap. I will play him at 9,200 on FanDuel. He projects as one of my slate leaders here. Nice 28.3% strikeout rate for the season. Walking too many at 12.1%, still a problem for him, but 3.88 ERA, 3.78 xFIP. He's gotten around the walks via the strikeouts. He's also been fairly good at limiting power. He had been better at it earlier in the season. Now he's up to a 3.14% home run rate. The barrels are creeping up to 8.3. The exit velocity is creeping up. The hard hits are creeping up. So it's not great in terms of the contact. There is some home run upside for the Royals, so it would probably both sides it. But I think my most enthusiastic spot for this one is probably Mackenzie Gore on the mound. Then we have the Nationals bats. Ugh, God, I can't believe I have to do this. Nationals against lefties are not as bad as Nationals against righties by any means. They're actually a decent team against left-handed pitching so far this year. There are a couple capable right-handed bats when a lefty's on the mound. They all come really, really cheap. I forgot to change Luis Garcia up there. Ignore the price on Luis Garcia. That's his pitcher price for the other guy. I forgot to change that. I don't have a good fix for that, so I have to manually change it every day. It's a pain in the balls. Anyway. What was I saying? Righties on this team. So you're looking at Lane Thomas, the team's best hitter overall. He's got a 121 WRC plus overall, 8 home runs, 4 stolen bases on the year, and is truly playing well against lefties. Garcia, I think, is in play. Can you actually click in popular Nationals bats, though? Are they going to be popular? I assumed they were going to be pretty popular. That's the thing, and I was going to round off to that. Like, if they're super, super popular, I still want to undercut because they're a terrible team, and despite the small sample production against lefties. So, assuming that they are super popular based on that question on as other sites are projecting it, yeah, I think you can undercut the field on Nationals bats and not really worry about it. But I do think there's upside here. So, like, don't be shocked if that doesn't work out and they go off and go crazy. And they're also a really strong value. So what you sacrifice by not playing them is the ability to potentially put them together with 4 premium bats or 5 premium bats from another team. So that becomes a bit of a question mark if that team does connect. Like, these are really, really cheap prices. So that's your worry in fading them. But yeah, I take your point. If they're very popular, it's not a good team to get aggressive with when they're super popular. But against lefties, Lane Thomas, who I mentioned, Joey Meneses, Stone Garrett has nice power potential against left-handed pitching. So the top 4 here, Dom Smith, I don't really know what he's doing in a major league lineup at this point, particularly against the lefty here, but he's sitting 5th. Ildemaro Vargas, if you want him, take him. It's fine. Michael Chavis is semi-interesting. 2,100, you guys remember probably from last year. I was enthusiastic about Chavis when he was on the Pirates. When they're facing lefties, I would get enthusiastic about it. Still has over a 200 ISO for his career against lefties, but as you can see, this year, a 0.00 ISO, or a .000 ISO, I should say, in his 30 plate appearances. Very limited sample, obviously. So decent stick for 2,100 at first base, second base on DK, second base only on FanDuel. If you're going to Nationals, maybe you offset some of that popularity that Dennis was worried about there by going to a guy like Chavis, probably going to be a little bit less popular than some of the guys at the top of the lineup. You sacrifice a plate appearance, maybe you buy some ownership differential. Alex Call, Riley Adams at the bottom of the lineup. Take him or leave him along with the rest of this team. The Royals on the other side, I like Nick Prado a lot. They've been letting him lead off against lefties. Haven't really seen too much of a dip in quality against fellow lefties. So Prado, Sal Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., MJ Melendez. That's a good top 5 here. There's a lot of power upside. MJ, like I talked about yesterday, 12.4% barrel rate, 55.8% hard hits. Somehow that's turned into only a 138 ISO and 4 home runs. But I believe that there's more power there. You can see it. Right? It's right there in front of us. So there's more power in that bat. Against the lefty, though, and against the guy who was good at limiting power earlier in the year, I don't think it's a great spot for MJ. But the top 4 there I really like. The bottom 4, Michael Garcia, Michael Massey, Eduardo Olivares, and Jackie Bradley Jr. A lot of meh in that group. Garcia's probably the best stick right now, 286, 345, 390 this season with a 102 WRC+. But if you're going to Royals, it's probably that top 4 for me. And then, mix and match some of these other pieces. Larry Jaws on 4th of July. Love that, Larry. That's a good call there. And Die Hard on Christmas. Yeah. The old debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Die Hard's an excellent movie. One of my favorites that takes place at Christmas. I don't know if I want to count it as a Christmas movie. Christmas is it's there. That's why they've got the party going on, right? It's a Christmas party, I think, at the building. So it's kind of in the background, though. Like there's the scene where he writes, "Ho ho ho! Now I have a machine gun on the guy." After he kills him and sends him down in the elevator. That's the most Christmassy moment in the entire thing, though, I think. So, yeah, it takes place on Christmas. That's where I'm going to come down on is Die Hard a Christmas movie, but definitely a good one to watch on Christmas. Literally watched it last night while I was falling asleep. One of the cable channels had all 3 Die Hards on in a row, so I woke up at different times through each of them. So I got all 3 Die Hards in just 2-minute segments, totally weird order, and not the same movie from I would fall asleep during 1 and wake up during 2, so on and so forth. You guys get it. Anyway, let's move on. Giants against the Brewers. This is another spot that was showing major power upside. You can see it in the top 6 for the Giants here. The projected version had Blake Sabol hitting second at the building. He says at the building, Nakatomi Plaza. It is Nakatomi Plaza, yes. 31st floor, I think. So, yeah, EMAC throwing me off there, talking about Nakatomi Plaza, bringing me back to Die Hard when I'm trying to get through this in time for you guys to be able to go over for his show that starts up in 13 minutes over on the other channel. So we've got, the Giants lineup showing a ton of power here against Colin Ray. Ray was awful for power early in the season. He calmed down a little bit in his most recent starts, but still 41.5% hard hits, 90.2 miles an hour average exit velo, 3.95% home run rate. This is a guy who's pitched on multiple continents over the past few years. Not not a major league caliber pitcher, really, just kind of holding down a rotation spot here. So I'm not going to Colin Ray. At 58, maybe you get one of those weird games where he gives you 6 clean innings, finds a few strikeouts against the aggressive Giants. As you can see, 28.4% strikeout rate for this confirmed Giants lineup. That is aggressive. Lot of free swingers here, but definitely a ton of power going back the other way. So I'm seeing it more favoring the Giants. I'm going to Lamont Wade. I'm going to Mike Yastrzemski. I'm going to J.D. Davis, Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger, Blake Sabol. I was mentioning Sabol at the top when I saw Emacs comment. He was projected to hit second, which I really liked. They dropped him down to 6, which is totally fine. Sneaky player with catcher eligibility. 5 home runs on the season, a 174 ISO. Nice little contact profile for a cheap hitter. 10.1% barrel rate, 42% hard hits. I like that a lot. So I think Sabol's an interesting play who won't be as popular as a lot of his teammates. Mitch Haniger on the right side, 4 home runs in 102 plate appearances since coming back. Hit 39 in 600 some odd plate appearances 2 years ago. Has missed. If he was healthy every day of his career, he would be a superstar. It's just a shame that he's not, but he's very, very cheap in the heart of that order. So I really like that. Top of the order, everybody's also cheap. Everybody below 4K on DK, in the 29 to 3,000 range on FanDuel. So you'll love getting to the 3 lefties up there. Tons of power in that group, as well as a lot of on-base acumen, like a lot of correlated scoring ability. J.D. Davis from the right side has been mashing, 53% hard hit, 9 home runs on the season from J.D. Love him finally getting a full-time role. He was a guy for years we were talking about, love the contact profile when he gets a chance. Why doesn't he ever get a full-time chance? Finally made his way out to San Francisco, and to the detriment of the New York Mets, who have 3 or 4 former players on this San Francisco team. But back end of the lineup, David Villar, Brandon Crawford, Brett Waisley, not great. You get a little bit of veteran quality out of Crawford. VR sitting at 4 home runs, Crawford 4 home runs, both below the Mendoza line, Wisely joining him below the Mendoza line. So not a great final third there for San Francisco, but tons of power up top. We always worry about pinch hitters with the Giants. Yeah, it is a concern. They are one of the more aggressive platooning teams in the league, but I think in this spot we get enough upside initially in those first few innings against Colin Ray coming out of the and then against Colin Ray and all the upside he provides there, and then with the Brewers bullpen coming in, I don't know that they're going to have a ton of mix and match options where it's going to be platoon, switch guys in and out. Like, this is a fairly stable, fairly standard version of the Giants starting lineup. So I don't know how much we really sweat that with these hitters. Like the top 5, especially top 6 there, you might get a swap for Sabol comes out and like a Brett Sullivan comes in, something like that. So it's a guy like that maybe gets a little bit of an impact if they bring a lefty in to face like Conforto, and he goes Conforto, Haniger, Sabol, maybe that you see a change like that, but I'm not going to sweat it that much. It's certainly a concern, but it's something that I keep in the back of my mind when I go to the Giants roster. The Brewers lineup wasn't confirmed when we started the show, probably is by now. Let's see if there's anything weird. Yeah, Yelich, Owen Miller, Rowdy, William Contreras. Looks basically like we've got it in the projected form here, so let me just talk it through real quick. If you're going to that team, they're going up against Alex Cobb. The issue with Alex Cobb, excellent pitcher at limiting launch angle. Negative 0.1 degrees this year. We talked about this with Fromber yesterday. Pitchers who limit launch angle limit home runs, and you can see that coming through in the home run model. Rowdy Tellez sitting at 6.22. He's normally a guy who's very highly above 10, very frequently against a right-handed pitcher. So Rowdy's got 12 home runs on the season. If you're going to Brewers, I would include him, but it's not a great spot for home run upside despite the 46.6% hard hits, because Cobb's going to keep a lot of pitches on the ground. At 8,000, 9,300, I think he's kind of viable on both sites. Like him a little bit better at the DK price. 93, maybe a little aggressive. You can see he's a 27 projection here. Maybe we need him to get the win and the quality start bonus to really pay off that FanDuel price, but I do think he can get there. 58 innings in 10 starts, nice little average depth of start numbers. 21% strikeout rate is serviceable enough against a fairly free-swinging Brewers team too. So I think you can get a decent start out of Alex Cobb here. He'd be in play for me on both sites. The Brewers lineup, if you're going that route, I would look to, the obvious names like a Christian Yelich, like a Rowdy Tellez, maybe you mix in some Owen Miller, some William Contreras. Everybody else in the lineup, Jesse Winker's had an awful season. Brian Anderson has cooled significantly since his hot start. Turang, Taylor, Weimer at the back end. It's not a great lineup. I don't really like the Brewers that much here, just on Cobb's ability to keep the ball down. So they'd be a low-end stack for me. I don't think you're making a total mistake if you grab a few shares in a full portfolio of 150 lineups, but it's a low priority stack for me going up against Cobb. Last game on deck. We've got Drew Smyly. We've got Graham Ashcraft. I don't really have much interest in either one of these pitchers. If I'm choosing gun to my head between the two, I don't want to. I might take the bullet. I'd probably lean Ashcraft. Again, no, I can't do that. Not against the Cubs lineup. I'd probably lean Smiley. Better strikeout rate going up against the worst team. But I just don't love Drew Smiley in general. But he's actually pitched decently well this year. 2.93 ERA, 4.28 xFIP, 23.3% strikeout rate against a relatively flat Reds lineup. I think there's a little bit of upside for Smiley. What I don't like about him is the $7,900, $8,700 price tag. I think the FanDuel price is out of line. $79 you can get away with on DK, but it's not like you're getting him at a discount. Like, that's an appropriate price, I think, for Drew Smiley here. So you could see a little bit of upside, maybe find some strikeouts against the Reds. This is not a good Reds team, not a good Red lineup. I am interested a little bit in Matt McClain. You can see the rookie shortstop, nice little 10.47 number in the home run model. He was raking before his call up in AAA. He's got 2 home runs already in 52 plate appearances. Nice little 222 ISO. High-end prospect, one of the Reds' many high-end prospects. He is a step down from the Elly De La Cruzes of the world, but he's a decent stick who I expect to hang around here for a while. So decent price on him. You put him together with Jonathan India, Spencer Steer, Stuart Fairchild, that's fine. Maybe some Nick Senzel, that's fine. Fairchild's a fairly interesting bat just based on the idea of power. 9.5% barrel rate, 41.3% hard hits last year. He's cheap at 2,300, 2,400, hitting 5th for this team against a lefty. So if I'm going to that team, I'm looking top 6. Newman, Fraley, Barrero at the bottom of the lineup. You can take or leave them. If you're building a ton of Red stacks for some reason, that's fine. Mix and match them, but it's not great. Fraley, better against righties. Maybe you grab him for the idea of facing a righty out of the bullpen later on. 5 home runs on the season, a 155 ISO, 102 WRC plus. He's 5,000 on the DK slate though. I don't really like grabbing an 8-hitter 5,000 on the bad side of platoon, so don't love that. I do like the Cubbies. I think you guys probably know I talk about the Cubs and their upside and some of the players I like in this lineup quite a bit. Going up against Ashcraft, who's only a 17.4% strikeout rate for the season, 5.57 ERA, 4.42 xFIP. Plenty of contact available. Not a ton of premium contact. 5.2% barrels is pretty effective. 88.3 miles an hour of average exit velo, 37.2% hard hits. Those are all fairly effective numbers at limiting premium contact, but we see enough upside in terms of the lack of strikeouts, the aggressive walk rates. You can see that BBB minus K number that I made up there is showing, despite the lack of premium contact and not a significant mark for home runs, based on the lack of strikeouts and the aggressive walk rate, there should be run creation opportunities here for the Cubbies. And the Cubbies are really good at getting on base. You can see the top end of the lineup here. The on base percentage is 345, 361, 405, 380, 358 for the top 5 hitters there. That's really good. If you get that kind of on base, you can see how that translates in the run creation numbers for each of those guys. Each of those guys also has power, a little bit of speed. We're talking about Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, and Christopher Morel there. Morel, 9 home runs in 67 plate appearances. Is it fair to say he's cooled off since he's not hitting a home run every single day right now over the last couple of days? But still, 476 ISO, creating runs 104% better than average since rejoining the team. Pretty killer start to the year for Morel, but he's obviously expensive for that. Everybody else in the lineup is kind of cheap for their talent, though, so I really like that. You get the version of the lineup with Mancini in it. You get the version of the lineup with Patrick Wisdom in it. Wisdom is a nice bat. He typically hits late in the lineup, 7th, 8th, somewhere around there. But that keeps him low owned. It keeps him very cheap. And we really only need the 1 home run out of him to pay off the salaries that he comes at. 12 homers on the season, a 297 ISO. That's killer power from a guy that late in the lineup. 18.8% barrels, 55.3% hard hits. Not too bad out of Patty Wisdom. And Yan Gomes. Don't sleep on Yan Gomes, particularly where you need catchers. 3,100 is a nice price for that hitter. He's got 6 home runs on the season, 288, 306, 471 on the season, a 183 ISO, creating runs 7% better than average. For that price, a guy with an 11.4% barrel rate, I'll take some shares of Yan Gomes if somebody's going to tell me I have to play catchers. On FanDuel, 3,200 is probably a little high. If he was more in that 28, 29 range, I'd say use him as a first baseman. Hitting 9th, that's kind of aggressively high. If you had him, at that price, maybe hitting 6th where Mancini is, maybe a little bit more viable. In this case, I'd rather just take the price at 2,700 on Mancini if I'm going to that util spot or first base spot. So I think that rounds it out, guys. Can we scroll over and look at the pitching just so you guys can see it all side by side since I gave away all the projections, right? That's how I have it. right now. My model projects strikeouts a little bit aggressively in terms of how it calculates these points, but that's my breakdown for the pitchers. So I'm looking at Erod, I'm looking at Matt Gore, Dylan Cease. Garrett Cole, I certainly want to be a part of, but like we talked about, his price is really, really high for a guy who's been scuffling, not finding his strikeouts like he normally does. A little bit concerned about Garrett Cole. I would probably undercut the field at those prices. Yu Darvish, I think, is a serviceable name in the middle of the board, as is Alex Cobb down here. They're a little bit high on the FanDuel slate in terms of price, a little bit cheaper on the DK slate, so I think you can get some nice value there, but I would put my cutoff probably around here, around Cobb. I'm not really worried about losing anybody out of the bottom end. We talked about Montgomery being viable. If you need a discount below any of these prices, and we talked about Daniel Lynch does not belong here, right? This is a flawed projection because I didn't account for an innings cap. So take Daniel Lynch out of your plans here, cross him off of this list. But you can maybe replace him at the slide Jordan Montgomery up to the bottom here below Cobb. Take Daniel Lynch out, and that'll be your group. Monty only limited by the Guardians' ability to avoid the strikeouts. Love the Giants' power. Love the Cardinals' power as looking for stacks. Otherwise, a lot of mix and match pieces. I think we spread out with some bats. I think we focus on kind of a tight core of pitchers there, and that's about it, gang. So check out Rotoscouts. Got the full write-up up there. Home run picks, all that good stuff. And we're leaving 2 minutes for you guys to go get some coffee or something like that before EMAX show starts up over on the Stochastic channels. Thank you guys. I appreciate hanging out. Hit the like, the subscribe button. We'll be doing this for the rest of the season. So probably jumping on 11 noonish. I'm going to try and not conflict with Stochastic show. So I'll check out their schedule before I make mine for tomorrow. But we'll see you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck today.